the business than when you get on in the family. When you get to work, very often your self-esteem is boosted by your performance in the business or in the factory. Whereas when you get home, you don't seem to be that significant or that important. So it's not a surprise to discover that many, many men find themselves subtly imagining that their priority is to be a provider of physical goods for the family, and it is not so. But here is a very, very challenging thing. Here a decision often needs to be made. Tom Peters is a prolific writer on the subject of business and excellence. He's written books like In Search of Excellence, A Passion for Excellence, and so forth. He's a business guru. He writes this: "We are frequently asked if it is possible to have it all. A full and satisfying personal life and a full and satisfying professional one. Our answer? No. The price of excellence," this man goes on to say, "is time, energy, attention and focus. At the very same time that energy, attention and focus could have gone toward enjoying your daughter's soccer game. Excellence is a high-cost item." Maybe, my dear friends, and I tremble to say this, but maybe some of us need to make a decision in their heart that we will be better fathers than we are accountants or doctors or businessmen or tradesmen. I think of Doc and Rose. When I was a younger minister in the Central Coast, there was a couple there, a young couple in those days, Doc and Rose, who had 3 children, but who became beloved by the churches of that area because they poured their energies and their resources into the Pathfinders. And they had one of the best Pathfinder programs anywhere in New South Wales. What most people did not know is this: that Doc, as he was familiarly known, was a local GP. And in order to be able to make families and his own children the priority that he did, he had to give up the possibility of being a specialist in Macquarie Street. He had to say, "No, I'm going to be a great father, I will not be a great doctor." And I have to say to you, my dear friends, that Steve Smith is honoured this day in my heart and in the heart of countless young people because he made that choice. And maybe, my friends, in order that you preserve the priorities of a godly home, some of us need to make a difficult decision about that. Let me hasten on quickly and look at the third priority with you. And that is this. Back in Psalm 144, we ought to have our finger or our ribbon in there, shouldn't we? Psalm 144, verse 14 says that the third priority, after the sons and daughters, after the barns being full, the third priority is that there shall be no breaking in or going out, that there shall be no outcry in our streets. In other words, one of the great priorities of a safe and secure society is not only that we will make our children first and look after our security, look after our prosperity, but that we will look after our security. And that's Dad's job. And here I know I will tread on some very, very fragile ground. But my dear friend, my dear dads, grandfathers, uncles, you and I need to be protectors of our children's safety from abuse. We need to have the courage, my dear friends, to stand up and speak up at the appropriate time in the appropriate place if we are worried that there is someone preying on our children. There are far too many children who are ruined for life, and I mean that, friends. I know the grace of God can transform a person when they're older in a wonderful way, but the grace of God even then never takes away all of the scars of the abuse that can be inflicted on a little child through inappropriate physical touching. We, as fathers and as uncles and as grandfathers, we need to be protectors of our family to ensure the security of them. It's not the only area in which we need to be protectors. Some of you know only too well that into the bedrooms of your little boys and little girls is coming a stream, a veritable flood of corruption. And you know what I mean? The internet material, some of the games that are happening. And you and I as parents have a God-given duty to make sure that what happens in the minds of our children is being protected, monitored, screened. You know they don't. And we have the responsibility, my dear friends, of getting a godly sense of what is appropriate and saying no to the rest of it. Too many of us, I'm afraid, have become flabby about that and said, oh, well, it's probably pretty nice, it's got a bit of mucky stuff over there, but it's generally all right. We need to be clearer than that, my friends. I've been pretty severe this morning. But friends, we need to be very clear about what the Bible says about our priorities, and we need to fight for them. We need to fight for them. Give clear leadership about them. I'll summarise the next 2 points real quick. If these priorities are to be preserved, that's the second area, we need to learn to pray the prayer that is the heart of this psalm. And it's found in verse 11. David, who in verse 1 says, "Blessed be my Lord and my rock, who trains my hands for war," says in verse 11, "Rescue me and deliver me from the hand of foreigners." And then this phrase, "in whose mouths are lying words." My dear friends, the greatest threat to a nation is not that another nation will come in and destroy it, because eventually it can pick itself up and build itself up again from the ruins. The greatest threat to a nation is when another nation shall come in and inveigle its corrupting principles. Then the rot has set in the ground. And I would say the same is true. The greatest threat to a family, to children, to young people, is not the person who may attack them on the street corner. Is not necessarily even the drug dealer, although that's a terrible thing. It is allowing corrupting principles to gain a hold in their life. That's where all of us, not only families, should be vigilant, so that we watch the principles that our children are growing up on are of the very best kind. And I want to make a plea to you, gentlemen, and all of us in this regard. The Bible says very clearly, and I will read it with me. I'm getting hurried now, and I'm flipping over the verses that we should read together. 2 Peter, should I say, chapter 1 and verse 4. 2 Peter chapter 1 and verse 4 says this: